What's up, everyone? Welcome to Shot Callers Esports. I'm at Hempstead. That is not Eric Kummel. That is Mark Horner. Special guest today. How you doing, Mark?
I'm feeling pretty good, Matt. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So the biggest news right now in League of Legends is this report that came out the other day about all these EU teams maybe applying to get into the NA LCS. Even some LPL teams apparently have been applying. You got guys like Splyce, Misfits. Okay, that makes sense. They're based in North America.
Right.
And then Fnatic and G2. Hold on a second.
Whoa!
What's going on? These are like mainstay.
You can't have those people leaving EU. No way.
No, you can't. So all of a sudden they send in these applications to apply to be permanent members of the NA LCS. What do you think about this?
It's interesting, right? Because when you look at this scenario and the teams that have applied to be coming into the NA LCS when you have franchising coming for next season, it's going to be a tough decision because you look at them and you look at these teams and yeah, they're successful organizations. A lot of them do have big time teams backing them with money. When you look at Splyce with TD Gardens and then you look, you know, also with Misfits with the Miami Heat behind them, there's a lot of professional sports organizations behind them, and that's what Riot wants, that credibility, you know, that experience in running a professional sports franchise. They want that behind these teams coming towards the franchising in the NA. But when you look at it from an EU perspective, like how could you have an EU LCS without Fnatic? How can you have European esports without Fnatic? So it's a really tough question on what Riot should do here, because these are strong franchises that I think could be very powerful in North America when you get the chance, but how could you take them away from Europe?
Yeah, just imagining EU LCS without Fnatic and G2 leaves behind H2K and the Unicorns as the staple European teams, and that's
crazy.
Just bizarre. But if this was to happen, I guess they still have the import rules in effect. So they would have to basically disband their entire team and keep like 2 members on that roster.
Right, so you'd be coming into the LCS and you'd be coming in with lots
Clean
of money
slate,
and everything to go, but you wouldn't have your players. And so, not that all of them would come into an NA situation and perform well, but a lot of them might actually come in and do pretty well and do strong enough. And I think that that would be something that these teams would have to consider. If you're going to be coming to NA, your roster's, most of it's gone because of the import rules.
It's going to be interesting to see. I've heard that it's unlikely still, just because they kind of want to favor those NA teams that are already based here.
Well, that would be my question at that point for them, right? Like, if you're going to let these teams come to NA, what does that mean for the European LCS after that at that point, right?
I think that's why they're concerned about it, because you'd literally be cutting down so much of what people love about the EU LCS, taking away the mainstay teams. You can't just take, say, G2, Fnatic, you're gone, and then you're going to have NIP as like a mid-tier team, and it's just going to be so bizarre.
Yeah. Well, if you take those teams out of the EU LCS, the only reason I'm watching the EU LCS at that point is to see the casters. So really, for me, you need to keep some of those big pillar teams in EU, specifically G2 and Fnatic, because I think that those are teams that could be very successful in NA, but history says you've got to keep them with Europe.
Yeah, again, Riot wants both these leagues to succeed, so getting rid of G2 and Fnatic seems like a bad thing for the EU LCS. And I've heard they've received over like 100 applications for these NA LCS spots, and they're only 10, so that's a lot of competition.
Well, I don't have the financing, but I applied for a team match, so it's going to be interesting to see where mine ranks behind Splyce and the rest of the European teams.
Even if you don't get it, Mark, you're probably just 11th out of the 10, so that's probably where you lie.
I offered them a $15 Best Buy coupon, so I don't know how that's going to work.
That's not bad. Best Buy's got a lot of good stuff.
Hey, you can buy gaming peripherals at Best Buy.
There you go.
This is not sponsored by Best Buy.
It is not, but you're welcome, Best Buy. Let's go over to the LCK, because SKT faced KT Rolster this morning, the good old Telecom Wars that everyone loves. And a lot of people were like, SKT's been underperforming lately, who knows who's going to win? In the back of my mind, I was always like, it's going to be SKT. When it matters most, SKT comes out and
But Matt,
shines.
once a year, you always get that crispy KT upset, and it's just so great, because when you go onto Reddit, and the first thing in the morning, the first post is an SKT KT post, the upsets happen, and you're just ready to dig in.
It's fantastic. But I mean, good to see Peanut back in the jungle for all 3 games. Didn't look terrible on a tank, which is a little different.
Yeah.
So he was, in game 3, he got Zac, which is never a good sign if you're KT Rolster. You should never be giving away Zac. I know there's a lot of priority picks right now, but Zac is still a must-bet.
Zac is one of those ones, he fits into the role of a tank right now, still in the jungle, but he's a guy that can fill in with so much usefulness with his kit, and especially with a jungler like Peanut dominating on him here. I think that was a very poor decision from KT to give him over, and it just was so great to watch Huni as well get to play on characters like Cho'Gath, things that he's actually played a lot in solo queue and has enjoyed in the top solo lane, and finally getting to put it in professional play here.
And if you don't think that Cho'Gath is completely busted, there's a Reddit post right now where he literally one-shots Talia. Poor Pawn got absolutely eaten alive, literally eaten alive. So that should still be banned too, because that was disgusting.
It's hilarious because as Cho'Gath in this patch is getting bigger and bigger as the games go on, actually massive, it looks like he's going so slow, but his character is so big now that it actually makes it look like he's moving slow, but he's moving as fast as he normally does. It's one of my favorite things. Not my favorite thing to see Cho'Gath, though, in a game against me.
No, it's definitely disheartening. Unfortunately for Huni, he also got the direst treatment in game 2 when he was on Rumble. So that was fun. But good to see Huni get back into the lineup and have some success. Same with Peanut. And now SKT, they're still in 4th place, and KT kind of blew their chance to lock up that top spot. So going into playoffs, do you think SKT can do what they do?
I think SKT can definitely still stay strong, and I would never bet against Kokoma and the rest of the guys there, because I think that they can adapt to patches so well, and I think that's one of their key strengths against everybody else, is that they have this system set up in place, and they research and they practice and they get it all right. You see other teams like in North America, TSM for example, they get to this patch, and some of the times they get the patch right away, but other times you're watching it and you're watching this past patch and you're watching for 2 weeks and you're kind of like, where is this identity that other teams have found in this patch, and TSM is not able to get it, whereas SKT seems every time to find exactly what's going on in the patch and how to implement it, not only in what they pick but also what they're banning away from opponents.
Yeah, and so I'm with you. I think SKT is going to do really well. But another team that's kind of been struggling with the most recent patch is the Unicorns of LoL. Because if you had asked me, before Rift Rivals, they're facing Splyce this week, if you had asked me who was going to win before the Rift Rivals, I'd be like, oh, Unicorns, obviously, they're a top 2 team in Europe.
Right.
And then they've been awful.
They have really struggled. It was kind of like, watching going into Rift Rivals, you had G2 kind of struggling coming back from MSI. And then since Rift Rivals, where Unicorns of Love did look like the stronger of the EU teams, have not really come out of this that well. And I think that's been something where you can't put it on jet lag or anything else like that for them because they weren't going anywhere. It just seems that they haven't been able to find their stride again. They're in a bit of a slump. And I think one of the bigger problems for them is Exile is just dying so much. Still a problem. And that's my biggest thing here, is that this was something that was happening in the spring. It's been happening for quite a while now, that Exile is putting himself into situations, whether it's through disrespect or not knowing what's going on, that he's getting killed. And it's become a serious issue for Unicorns of Love because it's really setting them behind.
It's almost comedic how much that Exile is actually dying in the mid lane, because the way the conversation goes in my mind is like, hey Exile, you're getting camped all the time. He's like, yeah. Okay, maybe you should play a little safer there, pal, because you keep getting camped and dying, and even now he's getting 1v1'd. And Senkux is kind of a guy who's on the rise for me right now, who's performing pretty well. And Exile, if you look at his CS differential at 10 minutes, it's like -9.
Dude, you're watching him, and it's just like when you're playing solo queue, and like you've died to a gank or something like that.
Sure.
Something bad's happened. Maybe you misplayed it. I'm not saying it, but it happens. But you're in gray screen simulator mode right now. And all of a sudden, you watch your Kayn jungler jump into a 3v1 and dies. And you're like, what was the point of that? There was nothing to gain from there. And that's what's happening a lot with Exile. I'm saying not exactly the 3v1s and type of things, but I'm watching him and I'm watching these plays, and when he's dying, they're not able to translate that into any objectives on the other sides. And the reason why he's dying is not for objectives or anything. He's just dying because he's not playing smart. And that is unacceptable to me.
Part of that, too, I do believe that the Unicorns are one of the lower warding teams in the EU LCS. So maybe pick up the wards, because it would help Exile.
Vision is important.
It definitely is important. But Exile, stay off the gray screen simulator. I know it's fun sometimes. You get to browse the shop and have a good time, but it's not good for your team. No.
Hey, you got to do a little window shopping. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Let's shift over to NA, because I don't want to sound like it, be rude here, but EU hasn't been the most exciting, just the way that the top is against the bottom. You don't get those top-tier matchups too often. But in North America, man, the top 6 teams right now.
Hey, it's been real spicy over here.
It's been real spicy. So when you look at the standings, Immortal and TSM at the top, and then you got those teams trailing behind, CLG, Cloud9, Dignitas, and then Team Envy. So this week, man, there's a lot of good matchups. I can't even remember them, Mark. That's how good they are. So first one, CLG taking on Dignitas. And again, Dignitas is one of the teams for me where, like you said earlier to me, you don't really know where they stand, but man, they look really good lately. They're on this completely hot streak. They seem to understand this meta perfectly, where they're like prioritizing Maokai and just look fantastic. And one thing to me, old Dignitas, you go to Baron, you lose. New Dignitas, you go to Baron, you win.
They're amazing at Baron now.
Right?
There's no more Dignitas memes at the Baron pit. It's kind of sad, actually.
I miss it, yeah.
But they've actually been very strong, and I think coming to this matchup for them against CLG, it's very important for them to find a way to get at Huni for me, because I think Huni's a guy that is going to find some synergy right now with Omar God, and that's going to be something for CLG that's going to propel them to becoming one of those strong teams again. They're still up at the top, but they've had a little bit of a fallback from towards the beginning of this summer split, where everyone thought, wow, they're really strong and dominant with Dardoch. And then we've seen Dardoch leave to go to Team Liquid again, a whole different story. But from understanding what happened with CLG there, and a little bit more has come out now, that Dardoch came in and everything was fine, and there was a lot of great synergy between him and Huni. And then, kind of towards the middle of this split, there was maybe a little bit of a difference in philosophy of how things are getting done and what they're prioritizing, and Dardoch didn't seem to fit. And so Dardoch leaves now, and you have Omar God there, who is a strong player, but does need to find that synergy with Huni. And I think that if that's found this week, I think that it could be trouble for Dignitas. Yeah,
Omar God's a guy you have to give a little bit of help to, just because he's new to the team. And teams are going to put him as a pressure point. You're going to invade him, and that's what Phoenix One did to have some success against.
He's no Mike Young, okay? Not everyone can step in like Mike Young.
Exactly, and have the immediate Rookie of the Year success. Yeah. Omar God is not Rookie of the Split.
No.
But yeah, that's what Phoenix One did. They invaded him, got some early kills on him, and just pressured him over and over. Against Envy, CLG gave Omar God a lot of help.
Right.
And they pressured Lyra early. They had some level 1s to go in and take some camps away. So I expect that to happen again against Dignitas. I love the CLG level 1s. You never know what to expect. So look for that. But also in this series, Darshan and Someday, it's kind of like the revitalization of both these guys. Because Someday was still good in 2016 or 2017 spring, but not as good as you've seen him.
Right.
And then Darshan is like having the split of his life. He's Zion Spartan again.
Yeah, Someday comes in 2017 Spring Split, and you're getting Someday playing, and you're watching him, and you're like, this guy's great, this guy's great. And then he kind of gets taken a bit of a backseat to Hanser and things like that, and didn't quite go his way for the rest of spring. But now, Someday in this patch with Maokai available, when teams are just for whatever reason saying, hey, take Maokai, this guy that you're known for that's OP right now, that's your guy, Someday. I don't know why that's happening, but Someday is really dominating now because teams are letting him take his picks that he wants that are strong, and they're things that he is very good at playing, and it's really worked out for Dignitas.
It really has, but I'm pretty sure CLG is going to be banning that Maokai. They're
I think
smarter
CLG
than
is
that, I think.
Yeah, a little bit better than some of these other teams they've been going up against in the pick and ban phase, and so I think CLG can cue in on that a little bit more, but I still think that Someday is performing at his top level, and his synergy right now with the rest of Dignitas has been strong because it's providing him the resources that he needs to snowball ahead.
For sure. But for Darshan, I think he might have met his old teacher who called him Zion Spartan, because that is what he looks like. And he's not really, like CLG, I know they understand the meta and they know that tanks are really good, but Darshan is still a guy who hasn't fully switched over to that top lane tank thing. He's playing Gnar, which is kind of like a in-between, and he's also played Camille. So I do like what he's done, and man, he looks very good, and it definitely adds another layer to the CLG team. It's not just ban Aurelion, Soul, and win. It's, wow, we have to actually be careful of all three lanes because they can take over any time.
And I think when you mentioned that with Darshan, he hasn't actually been playing most of the tanks that are in meta or really making a priority to play them, but he has been playing champions like the Gnar still, which is still strong coming from last patch. But one of the interesting things that I find with him is that he is very good at managing the rage bar for Gnar, right? So you got to manage that and make sure you're popping off into Mega Gnar at the right times. And I feel like Darshan has his finger on the trigger perfectly for CLG right now, and when to trigger it right into those team fights to turn things around.
Yeah, Gnar's an incredibly hard champion to get your head behind, because I play it too in solo queue, and it's like, big team fight, too bad I just turned into mini Gnar.
Dude, I saw the Gnar skin, the Dino Gnar skin, and I'm like, oh, this thing is great, he's super cute, he's cool, Dino skin. Can't play it worth a damn, no chance.
But no one's talking about this Dignitas CLG matchup this week, because on Sunday, there's an even bigger matchup, and that's this CLG TSM.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of the rivalry before, maybe from time to time. But man, it's going to be exciting. Even though TSM has like dominated this rivalry over the past year and a half or so, it's still big every single time. So I'm pretty excited for it. I know you're a big TSM guy. I'm kind of a CLG guy from back in my day. So we might get into a bit of fisticuffs here.
Yeah, we're going to have some strong words for each other about it. It's going to be great. And, Matt's probably going to be feeling a little sad when TSM comes out at top once again.
I'll be salty. Yeah, I'll definitely be salty. But, I mean...
You're not going to get a TSM logo tattooed onto your forehead,
no, I'm not.
like
not
Hot
for
Shot.
a week. Not a henna tattoo like he did. That's just stupid. I understand that CLG's probably going to lose. But, like, looking back at this rivalry, there's so many great memories. Like, I know my favorite was in MLG Anaheim 2013 with that... Nien kind of defending the base, and then the minion streamed into the Nexus and ended it. It was fantastic.
Bad memories for me.
I don't know. But another thing that adds to this rivalry is the whole double lift, getting kind of kicked, leaving, whatever happened there, going to TSM, the eternal rival. So every time these two teams face, it's always double lift versus Stickset to see who kind of outperforms each other. Big matchup. So, man, they're both excellent, but double lift right now, his laning is still one of the best.
Doublelift has come back and really shown us who he was, right? You've seen some rust on him from being the streamer lifestyle, raking in that cash on Twitch. But you got to talk about this guy's come back, and you look at him with the shot calling on TSM and the play around the bot lane and how things have worked. And I really want to focus on Doublelift. His play in lane has been strong, yes, but I think his biggest impact has been getting guys like Svenskeren really to start popping off again. Svenskeren struggled in the spring split, wasn't really, kind of hung out to dry with the way that the communication worked on TSM, but then you're looking at it now and the way that Doublelift commands things for them, and Svenskeren has become a monster again for TSM, really cleaning up, playing responsible, not solo dying in his invades on blue and red buffs. So this has been really strong, and I think that's one of the impacts that Doublelift has also had on this team, and I think that he is really a key for TSM, obviously.
Yeah, it took some time for TSM to really get going again, but now highest damage per minute of all the 80 carries in the NA LCS, so he's a dominant force. Even though he's going to be playing some Sivir, everyone get ready, it's exciting. He's still going to be pretty strong in that bot lane, and I think that's the focal point in this series is that bot lane. Because Aframu's been a guy who's kind of been like, what exactly are you doing invading by yourself and dying again?
And I think that this is going to be an interesting series to watch because coming off of this last week where TSM kind of messed around with picking Varus a couple times and it didn't look all that strong. You know, it's looked strong in the LCK and it's been different, but the TSM didn't really find much use from Varus. They didn't get the initiations that they wanted. They didn't really quite get to go in. Doublelift was having a really hard time hitting the chain of corruption. Things like that weren't working for TSM. So I want to see Doublelift and TSM go back to the priority on characters like Tristana, stuff like that, which give you the range and the damage and those crit shots that Doublelift can get. Oh my God, those are nasty.
It is disgusting. So that's enough of TSM. I mean, look, before we move on.
We could talk about it for days, but there's some more exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure TSM's going to win, though. I'll give you your dues. Maybe I'll give it 3 games.
Don't jinx us now, okay?
The thing that happens, though, as soon as you think CLG is going to do something, as soon as you tune into what CLG is going to do, oh, they're going to beat Phoenix 1, no problem. No, they're going to lose, 100%.
I'll tell you what. CLG wins game 1, gets your hopes up, and TSM reverse sweeps. Bjergsen gets it done.
That sounds about right. CLG making people lose faith.
Hey, yep, but you get that one game.
You get the one game. Oh,
yes.
Let's go.
No.
Yeah, got to lose before playoffs. Start low, move up. So one matchup also, which a lot of people might not be looking at, but I think it might be a potential first-round playoff matchup is Envy against Cloud9. And, it's like Envy is still kind of this boring team, but quietly, Apollo has put together one hell of a split. Right,
when you're talking just team names, Envy doesn't really jump out as like, yeah, those are the guys I really want to watch this week, whereas like a TSM CLG matchup does. But when you're actually looking at the players and what they've been able to accomplish quite recently, it's very exciting. You're looking at Apollo playing well, Niski really starting to come into form with this, possibly rivaling Mike Young for Rookie of the Split, who knows? But Envy has really stepped up their play, and of course you have Lyra, the MVP of Spring Split there. He is a great player in that jungle right now, and he's going to come up against a matchup where I think he's better than Contracts. Contracts can pop off as he's shown himself to do, and when he's really working well with Jensen, that things on C9 really start to roll. But I think that for this one, I'd give Envy the heads up here.
Envy's this team that's been surprising the entire split, especially last season when they finished last year. Like, I didn't even think they were going to get back in over teams like Gold Coin United, which would have been exciting to see with Mad Life, but they managed to get back in, and now they're at 8-8, locked up a playoff spot. I know their game record is still under 500 a little bit, but these are just players who have done a complete 180. I know Pyrian's gone, which is definitely good for the team. Nothing against Pyrian, but he was like a Talia Orianna only guy.
And it put them into interesting comps, right? Because that was all he was going to play.
It was very limited.
Right, and you have to kind of build around that the rest of your roster. That wasn't working well for them.
No, it wasn't for sure. So again, going back to Apollo, he's going up against Sneaky, and Apollo's been a guy who's floated around on so many bad teams. He's been stuck in elo hell for years.
He's gotten his way around.
Yes, he has. And part of it was him underperforming, but right now, he's having the split of a lifetime. 6.2 CSD at 10 minutes, the highest. That's pretty crazy.
Jeez.
And then there's Sneaky. Sneaky in lane LoL. Everyone knows that meme. So lately Sneaky's been pretty disappointing for me.
Yeah.
This is a team going into the split where I'm like, Sneaky Smoothie, that's one of the best ball lanes in North America.
It was one that was operating at the highest level coming into this split, right?
Yeah.
And now you're watching it, and it's kind of a slow train wreck down there. No one's really working together. Sneaky's pushing forward as Smoothie's kind of backing up here, and it's not quite working so well. And this is something that I think that they definitely need to have addressed, because right now you're watching the rest of this team play, and you're looking in the top lane. Impact and Ray have been fine. Tanks are coming back in. That's not a problem for C9 when you have both Impact and Ray there.
No.
And then you look in the jungle, you have Contracts, good enough. When he's really working with Jensen, it's fantastic. And Jensen, you talk about Jensen's put up MVP numbers right now. Dude's almost having 50 kill weeks. It's insane.
I know.
Jensen is being phenomenal. And then you look at what's going on in the bot lane. What's happening, guys? Like, you're Sneaky and Smoothie. You're supposed to be fine. No one should be worrying about that. And yet, it's the thing that I think is dragging down Cloud9 the most here and bringing them into like a third place spot here.
It was Smoothie, I think, last week after a game when he came out and he was like, man, it's great for Jensen to get these 1v1 kills and kind of carry the team, but as a whole team, we got to do better. Yeah. Because it really is that ball lane holding them back.
Like, it's sick. Jensen going off on Orianna, popping off, getting those kills. Awesome. But your team is way behind, so I don't know.
If Jensen gets LeBlanc again, something's wrong, because, last week he had 44 kills total, like you said, almost 50. He had 3 games with double-digit kills. And he literally is putting the team on his back right now, and everyone else has to step up a little bit.
That's the thing. Everyone always wants to talk Jensen, Bjergsen, right? That's always the mid lane talk when you're talking about NA and everything like that. And I think when you really boil it down, Bjergsen to me, and I'm the TSM fanboy, Bjergsen to me is better. I look at the overall game, I think Bjergsen's better. But when you're looking at Cloud9, you're looking at Jensen's ability to get those solo kills, that pressure that he can have on another player, I think no one else in the LCS can match him, because I think he just has that bloodlust to go after those kills and get it with those mechanics, boom, like that, and then he's out. I think Jensen really can do that well.
Yeah, I think, again, that's a great matchup too in the mid lane. Niski against Jensen, kind of the rookie against the guy who's been
That'll be definitely
crushing
fun
everybody.
To see.
So yeah, Niski last week, I got to shout out real quick his Lucian play against TSM, where he flashed the Syndra stun and then like 2 shots.
Dirty play.
Disgusting. So before we go on to viewer questions, who do you think is going to take this one home?
Ooh. I said it before, and I'm going to back it up again. I think Envy. I think Envy comes up, and I think 2-0s Cloud9 here. I want to see some strength from Cloud9. I want to see Jensen pop off. But I think Niski and the boys get it done.
I like it. I like the quiet prediction. So let's jump into the viewer questions here. Colin, who's going to win Worlds? Going straight to the point. We're not screwing around.
We're out of here.
Yeah, who's going to win Worlds? I know it's going to be a Korean team. Believe it or not, everybody. Spoiler alert.
So you had 3 chances to guess one of them.
Yeah, I put a lot of money on a Korean team.
See, now my better question here, we're going to answer this question for sure,
yes.
is of the 4 to 5 Korean teams looking to get into Worlds, who makes it in? Who are your 3 Korean teams going to Worlds?
I've got SKT.
Yes.
I think Longzhi makes it too.
Yeah.
And then I might give it to Samsung. KT might miss out for me.
If I'm being selfish, I want to have SKT, KT, and then I want to have Longzhi because I want to see some BDD. I want to watch Prey and Gorilla. Dudes have been awesome. But I do think that Samsung gets in there. So I think it's going to be SKT, KT, Samsung. And my pick for Worlds this year is going to be SKT again. Dudes are going to 3-time repeat. We're going to have more awesome SKT skins.
I'm done with
Kokoma's going to have another awesome Ward skin. But I think that it's going to be interesting because when you talk about SKT winning Worlds, which is my prediction, I think it's going to be interesting to see who they bring as their substitute, right? Because right now you can only bring 1. You can't have another guy, you can't bring 7 subs and just sub them in. Yet one is an emergency sub if someone's sick or injured or anything, and the other is just a regular sub. So I think that'll be interesting to see what they do with Huni, Untara, Peanut, like what do you got going on there? Who are you going to bring? So I think that's interesting. But SKT, it's the boring pick, but it's probably the right pick, guys.
I don't want any more skins, man. I'm done. Give me something else. Give the second place team some skins. Because at this point, it's like, why even bother with Worlds, man? Just let's move on. I know that's over-exaggerating. I'm just very bitter.
What if NA doesn't make it out of group stage again, and they just give the NA teams like trash-themed skins, like just garbage-themed skins for the champions?
Like remake Grungy Nunu into
just garbage.
TSM Nunu. Yeah. Nice. That's a little harsh, but
I'm getting a little mean, but it's okay.
Going back to your point, though, I think they have to take blank. I don't think they can afford to risk Peanut in the jungle.
But that's the question, right?
Because and then you go with Untara, probably.
I think that's the safer call. But then, Huni has shown that he can pop off sometimes differently. And, and that's one of the things that SKT, that they did like about having this roster with Huni and Peanut at first, is that, hey, Faker gets camped in the mid lane, can't do anything. Well, guess what? We have Huni popping off in the top lane. We got Peanut going off. Like, there's a lot of carries on this team that can get it done. And I think that's something that they might want to keep heading into Worlds. But again, that safety of Untara and how he plays and everything else and how he can go up against almost anyone in any role, that's interesting. It's
definitely interesting. And Wesley Brown has a comment about Huni. He says that he doesn't fit with SKT as an absorb pressure like Duke, SOAS, or Impact does. If SKT lets him go and goes back to the West, do you see a potential fit on a Western team?
I think that Huni definitely could. His aggressiveness, right, always fits in with the way that NA teams want to play. The question for Huni, right, is whether he wants to come back to NA. He's had great times here. He still is friends with some of the players back over here, so that's good news if you're hoping for a Huni return. And I think as far as a personality standpoint, Huni would be a great personality to have in NA. I think that he could come back and be strong. He showed it at MSI Spring Split, right? MSI Spring Split. The Spring Split, MSI.
We know what you're saying.
Yeah, MSI 2017. You're looking at Huni, and he, Hanser came in almost top form, right? And TSM didn't perform at that level. Sure. But Huni totally embarrassed him in the matchups that they had, totally spanked him around. So I think that Huni has shown that he still is that level at least for in comparison to NA or anything like that. I'd be very interested to see Huni come back to NA if possible.
I thoroughly enjoyed his time in North America and in Europe. I mean, his time on Immortals was hilarious.
Hey, Reignover, stuff's going on weird with Liquid right now. If we could get a Huni Reignover reunion, I would love that.
It'd be amazing. Unfortunately, that's 2 import slots. So that's your team.
So Mickey's off the team then, and Piglet's off too.
Exactly. Everyone's gone.
Steve's got the money. It's Liquid. Come on.
It is paid by Steve, everybody. That's right. What is going to happen in 2018? What the heck?
2018? Well, that's
a
very open question. Yeah, okay.
Man, look, it's very confusing, and this report kind of came out of nowhere with the whole EU LCS thing. But when you look at even what CLG is doing when they sold the majority of their stakes
controlling stakes, right?
Exactly, to MSG, that tells you that there's a lot of people that want to get into this because it's a long-term solution to what's kind of been a concern with the NA LCS and LCS as a whole, which is if you have one bad split, then you're gone and you have to get back in, and that's just not a convenient way to invest your money.
No, it's not secure, it's not smart, it's not continual. It's all these things that you want to be doing when you're an investor into these things, right? Put on your Wall Street pants, people, and think about it like that, because you really want to maximize your dollars in this, and you don't want to have any risks.
No,
the risk of having your team out of what makes you the most amount of money, that's a pretty big risk, and so you have that still in Europe, and that's going to be an issue for them. But when you look in North America, 2018 won't have that. That's a great thing for these investors. And I don't know how many of these teams will get in, though, because you look at it, and you do have CLG getting in with James Dolan and MSG, that group. TSM is obviously this big, huge brand name
get rid of TSM.
in NA. I don't think that you'd ever get rid of that. And then you also have, teams like Immortals and Cloud9, which have shown some strong backing and everything else there. But then you have Rick Fox with Echo Fox, right? That's a notable name, some money behind it, but he's kind of clashed with some owners before. So that's an interesting topic. And then you have FlyQuest, right? Well, that's the Milwaukee Bucks money is into the FlyQuest team, but I don't think that FlyQuest is going to get picked up to come into NA LCS franchising.
Unless High's packing $10 million in his back pocket.
Unless they want to see some more Wild Turtle flashing forward for the death. I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see what 2018 has for us. I'm looking forward to it. Does that count? I don't know.
I think it does. I'm excited, though, because there are going to be these teams that don't rebuy their spots, and there's going to be a ton of free agents.
Oh, yeah.
And there's going to be...
It's going to be a shakeup. I think we can definitely agree on that and say that there will be a shakeup coming up. Not, drastic in any sense of those things. No. But I think enough that it will move around some pieces and new teams, new players coming in, and it's going to be an exciting time, no doubt.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of exciting. Almost like a redraft minus TSM CLG keeping their rosters. It's going to be kind of interesting. We'll almost like an expansion draft kind of ordeal, maybe. Philip Paul wants to know, where did you get the power to turn Asian? Because usually we have Eric Kummel here. It's pretty...
the power came from my mom, who is Korean.
That's pretty impressive.
So that's where it came from. I just, boom, Asian, like that.
But yeah, if you just tuned in, Eric is not sick. He's just a very busy man. So this is Mark.
Just became Asian.
That's right. Wham! I wanted a different look on set, so we mixed it up a little bit, Did they give answers about Fnatic and G2 yet? Not yet. That's going to be... It's still a ways away. I think they give the... National team in October.
Definitely a ways away, yeah.
I think it's October they tell us who's going to be in the split, so tune in for that.
Yeah.
I'll let you know in October, but until then...
Cliffhanger, guys. Wait for that one.
Big cliffhanger. But yeah, if G2 and Fnatic leave Europe...
I don't see them leaving.
No, there's no way.
It's so hard, right? Because you do look at them and you say, if you want to have franchises in North America, you want the best... Well, G2 and Fnatic are probably the best that you could get from Europe. They have strong fan bases. They have good organizational skills put in place. The structure's there. The players are talented. Obviously, the players is a different issue with your import laws coming in. But those are the people that you'd want. But at the same time, I don't think as Riot Games you could risk losing them for Europe, right? Because that's those are your two pillars right there for me. And I don't see how you could get rid of them for the European community.
Yeah, again, you just can't. You can't kick out the two top teams. Fan bases will be like, man, that's not very nice. It's like, just imagine.
A lot of it makes sense until you get to the point of, well, then what happens to the EU LCS? And then that's where it's just like, well, you can't.
It would disappear.
Right.
It wouldn't disappear, but again, Riot has to protect both products here. And by letting these teams just move over to another region, it's like sabotaging EU.
Right, like what are you watching? Mysterious Monkeys and Vitality playing? No.
That is so hype. Let's go nuke them.
No.
All right.
At that point, the only reason to watch EU would be to watch Deficio slap Quickshot's butt. That'd be it.
Man, I do. That combo is the best. And then when you had Kobe on it, like the World or something.
I'm telling you, but that's one of the strong things, right? When you also look at what you get with Europe, they have a very strong production team.
They do.
You have Shocks on the desk, fills a great role with the host job, and then bringing in. I like how they have a mix of bringing in the players onto the desk to talk about it. Sometimes they do have a good thing going on. There's a lot of strong things with Europe that I do like, and I wouldn't want to see that go away.
No, it would definitely be rough to see. Let's hit a couple more questions, then we'll get out of here. Because I know you done with this, right? Right, Mark? Absolutely done.
I got some ARAM to play, man.
Oh, let's go. Nothing like playing an ARAM. Do you think TSM can go to Game 5 with SKT? My quick answer is no, and my long answer is probably no.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I'm the TSM guy, and I'm telling you, I don't think so. I mean, coming into MSI even this year, and this is the MSI roster with Wild Turtle, and things weren't working well, and you couldn't even see it. There were times where you thought, you know what, if you guys can just hold out, you can maybe take SKT to like 30, 35 minutes. But what's even the point of getting to 30, 35 minutes at SKT when you're unlocking their late game potential, and that's what they're so great at? I don't know. I really don't think it'd be possible at this point. I don't, especially with the way TSM's playing now. Maybe during the slump, the SKT 2017 slump where they were losing all those games, maybe. I don't think so though. 5 games, no. No. One game? Probably, yeah. Hey, if G2 can do it, of course TSM could do that.
Yeah, you can hang in a best of 1, but it's a whole nother game when it's a best of 5 against SKT. I mean, you'll see them. What will probably happen is SKT will win games 1 and 2, and they'll do their troll thing and be like,
right.
La-di-da, let's make some subs and whatnot, and then go to Game 4 when SKT wins in 29 minutes.
That's the problem. But the problem for me, though, is too much with SKT. When you're talking about TSM or any of these other teams facing them, there are too many win conditions for SKT. That's the biggest problem, is that they have so many ways and in so many positions, whether they're behind or ahead, how they can manipulate the map and find a way to win and take you down in comparison to how the North American teams play and how they're able to execute. It's totally different.
Yeah, but I mean, one thing is this SKT team is not as good as last year's.
Nope.
I think we can all agree on that. So there is some room for error potentially, and who knows, maybe TSM can, if they really get a good boot camp going before the tournament, force 5, but I really don't see it.
Hey, and you know what? SKT was incredibly strong last year. I don't think they're as strong this year, but if you do look back, and this is, again, all what ifs at this point, but if you look at Worlds last year, TSM was one game away pretty much from getting a total coast ride through until the finals.
Yep.
So you never know.
And they choked. Anyways.
Big time choke.
And
I was there. Oh, it was so sad.
Yeah, expanding on that, can TSM go to Game 5 with any Korean team? Again, yes they can, because right now the top 4 in Korea, maybe even top 5 with the Freaks, is pretty solid. But after that, there's a decent drop-off, I would say.
I think TSM could take MVP, teams like that. I think TSM would be...
Jinner beat them probably.
Right up there, yeah. So it'd be. I think that's an interesting question to see, how you would pair them up, right? And I think that staying outside of kind of that top 4 probably is the safest spot to guess at this point.
Right.
But again, TSM is not a bad team.
They're not.
That's kind of the thing that people forget here, is that, we prop up LCK so much, which it is. If you like LCK, just like me, you're a man of culture. But I tell you this, NA is not as bad as people have been ragging on it for, even with 4 performances at Worlds and recently in MSI that wasn't exactly desirable. And I'm not just basing this off of dominating EU at Rift Rivals. I do think that NA is a stronger region than people give credit for in teams like TSM. But I think that you do come up to some things which, those top 4 in Korea are top 4 for a reason. And I think those reasons are more than what TSM would bring to the table. Yeah,
I think for me, when you look at comparing NA to LCK, I would probably say that number 1 in North America is number 5 in Korea. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of go down the board from there. And the Olivers could definitely still beat up teams like, FlyQuest.
Right, you look at it.
That obviously they would, but
I want to talk about, if you look at it, and I think Longzhu, right, is a pretty interesting team to look at when you talk about TSM maybe, right? Because you look at it and you look in their bot lane, Prey Gorilla, right? Well, you have Double Lift and Biofrost. Not nearly as established, especially internationally, as that duo is, but a strong duo, right? Really regarded as that's a good duo in their own region. They're strong, good players. Then you have Bjergsen, right? Bjergsen's known as who he is and everything, the West version of Faker and everything like that. And then you have BDD, who's being considered kind of a young Faker at this point, right? Putting up the numbers that he used to do in some of his earlier seasons in his rookie year, and this is now his summer split, but it's still very impressive. And then you look in the jungler position in the top, and I think it's very comparable to what TSM has as far as strength. And I think that that's where you kind of have to look. And again, Longzhu right in around that kind of that mix around 5-4-3 type of zone, right? So I think that's where you might find TSM.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. One concern for TSM is Sven in the jungle because he can be exposed at times. And right now he's having a pretty good split for TSM in North America, but you've seen on the world stage where he's kind of outclassed, which is unfortunate.
And totally different as well is the way that substitutes are used in Korea, right? And compared to almost any other region, but especially with how NA has reacted to subs. It's changing now with the academy system coming in with franchising, and you look at teams like TSM starting to bring in substitutes for that reason. But you've looked at what Korean teams have done with subs as far as developing them on the patches, developing them with specific champions, and as well as just the idea of like, you know what, Peanut, you didn't have a great first game here. Come backstage with Kokomo, watch the game, learn, get it from a different angle, and then you come back in for game 3 and you've kind of seen some things refreshed a little bit. It's a different style, right? And so I think that that would be something that you'd have to think about, right, with TSM coming in here because, well, how would they do? They'd be doing fine, but then you have to think about teams switching in subs on them and how TSM would do if we're talking about TSM current. Well, are we talking about TSM with Mr. Rallis as a possible sub for double lift in matches like that? So it's an interesting topic talking about TSM being there. It's all hypothetical, of course, but interesting.
Yeah, the only team that's really figured out the sub system in North America, definitely not Echo Fox, because they're taking it to the extreme. But Cloud9 at times with Rain Impact.
I thought you were going to say Liquid, because Dardoch and then Dardoch coming back in.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on that one. But yeah, not Echo Fox. You can't just be like, man, you. Let's come out of here.
I think you've talked about it, though. You think you were exactly right with talking when we talked earlier, Impact and Ray. That's the team that I think has really gotten it right in NA as far as substituting out. I wasn't a believer of it at first. I thought, Impact's great. Leave Impact in.
Yeah.
And then Ray's kind of proven himself to be good for his own reasons, and I think that they have a good way of managing their own system internally, and I think that's things that teams in North America will look at as an inspiration on how to do it on the North American side.
Yeah, different play styles and different champs. It works pretty well. Let's get to 2 more questions. Why do EU and NA teams that always lose / are low tier keep coming back? Who keeps investing in these losing teams?
Well, there's still money to be made in these rosters, right? So you have to look at it from a variety of reasons, right? Because if you're just getting the teams to play and everything like that, it could be just the pure, strict bottom line finances of it. But you have other situations like Echo Fox, which is run by Kyle Fox, which is a passion project, for him from Rick Fox, right? And so these are different owners that are in it for different reasons. And, Rick Fox has even talked about it. And he's the guy putting up all the money for this. And he's like, man, I'm really tired of having a 7th place team. But also, as soon as he said that, he went, now, trust me, it's better than being the 10th place team because we've also been that. So it's interesting. Some people are in it just for the love of the game, right? People are into it for that reason, same as any other professional sports league. But I think you really would get down to the bottom line. There's money to be made in this, right?
There, even if you're not always taking home first prize sponsorships, there's so much more to it than just coming first in a split. You might not be TSM, CLG, those guys, but hey, if you're
it's not all about you getting the big check at IEM, right? That's not exactly how all these teams are making their money back. It's a lot of sponsors, other things like that, which make owning a team and operating a team to be a good position mostly.
All right, here's the final question of the day. Get ready.
Oh, I'm ready.
Do you think that North America can make it to semis?
Yes.
Semifinals?
I think right now there would be at least 2 teams from North America that could make it to semifinals.
Who would those be?
That would be Immortals and TSM. I think right now that the way that Immortals operates and Smithy and how things have changed for them, I think that they have enough to get to the semifinals, and I think that TSM, with their skill alone, I think can get there, and I think that they can manipulate, with how smart they are about figuring things out. I think they can do it, but I think that the interesting part for them is always going to be how the groups work out, right?
Exactly.
You saw TSM last year; everything was going to be perfect for them, and then they get more or less a group of death. And they can't even get out of that. So that's kind of an issue there when you look at talking about getting NA teams to the semifinals. But when you're talking about are they good enough, they're definitely good enough to get there. It's whether but if they execute to get there.
Right. And you're not saying that there's going to be 2 teams from North America in the semis. You're saying that there are 2 that can make it. Just to clarify, if anyone's confused out there, because that would be outrageous.
Make that one clear, yeah.
Because, I'm with you, though. I do think that, I think there will be a team in the semifinals. I do think it'll be TSM, but again, it really, so much of it does depend on this group draw because, man, you can get screwed over so bad if you have, like, the second team from China, the top team from top team from Korea, and then like the Flash Wolves. That can be a potential.
Mm-hmm. And you know, when you're talking about this, again, it can literally break down into one missed play. Like I can look back and think specifically for me, I think it was Hansard didn't go engage in a team fight with his ultimate fast enough against Samsung, and TSM ends up losing that game at that point.
Right.
And I thought TSM wins that one, you advance, you had an easy opening round, and you could have made it to the semis, no problem, even the finals against SKT. But things happen, the way they do. Tough times for NA, and it didn't work out. But I do think, bottom line, I think 2 NA teams could definitely make it to the semifinals, and I would put money on one of them making it there.
Any EU teams, real quick?
Are we talking about EU teams staying in EU, or have they come to NA first?
Real EU teams.
Real EU teams. Maybe Fnatic, maybe G2. I really doubt it, though. You know, Fnatic, they're fine, but the thing with Fnatic is they're only fine when it comes to them playing their own specific playstyle, which we saw didn't work against NA. And if it didn't work against NA, how's it going to work against Korea, the LPL, LMS? I don't know. You know, it's not going to happen. So I don't know about that, but I do think they're talented enough to maybe get there. And then you look at G2 and you hope, you know, if they can find their form, if they can get Trick really working with Perks again, then maybe. But right now, I would say no.
Yeah, I think G2 is probably the best chance of the European teams.
If they come into their form, though, right? You know, G2 right now, I don't think so. But again, G2 at their best, yeah, I think they could.
Yeah, the only thing with Fnatic for me before we get out of here is, man, you saw them at Rift Rivals again. They were pretty one-sided, and now they're going all the way back to this new thing where Reckless is playing Sivir and Varus and Ashe, and it's like,
Kane in the mid lane,
that was
things like that. It's exciting, but I don't know if it's going to work at a world stage level, right?
It's a little cheesy.
Yeah.
A little cheesy. So I'm not too sure, but let's say TSM in the semis.
Hey, I'm good with that one.
Take it to the bank. Don't do that because we regret it very much. Anyways, that's all time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to Shot Callers Esports. That's Mark Horner. Thanks for coming in, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I am Matt Hempstead, and we will see you on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Same time, same place. So tune into that. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. Thank you for your questions, and we will see you next week.